But Martin, unfortunately, you know, show business at a certain point in his life got the best of him. And when that happens, you see it happening. And there's nothing you can do about it.
You check with that before you out here choosing.
What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, "They are trying to kill me"? Yeah. What's going on?
Martin Lawrence just turned 60, and the skeletons in his closet, they're finally crawling out. From battling the dark side of fame to full-blown public meltdowns and even getting called out by his own co-star, Martin says the pressure nearly destroyed him.
Ring the bell, you call the nursery. You got ice on my child. They just look at you like, you nasty mother.
It all exploded one wild day when he was caught wandering into traffic, shouting, "Fight the power," and yes, with a loaded gun in his pocket. That moment made it clear something serious was going on behind the scenes.
Between the two, and you know, the network has a lot to do with that as well. You know, they take care of the star, then everybody else is a piece of shit.
Just like Diddy, Martin's fame came with heavy secrets. But after years of staying quiet, the truth is spilling out.
Well, peace and a bottle of hair grease to you too, bro.
Let's rewind to the terrifying moment that had the whole industry shook. Martin Lawrence was spotted out in Sherman Oaks, walking right into the street. Not just any street, but a jam-packed one with cars flying by. Drivers hit their brakes in shock. Some were scared, others just froze, watching him move like he didn't care if he got hit. Martin looked totally out of it, furious, confused, and yelling at the top of his lungs. One witness straight up said he looked like a madman. And this wasn't just any dude. This was one of Hollywood's top comedians acting like he'd lost it.
See me, I run out, I got a shirt on. You see Mike, he half butt naked.
Cops were called in a flash. When they got there, they found Martin right in the road at Tyrone Avenue and Ventura Boulevard, one of the busiest intersections in town. But the biggest twist, he had a gun on him, loaded, in his pocket. That took things to a whole other level. The gun Martin had, it was loaded. That means things could have turned deadly real fast. Witnesses say he was yelling, "Fight the power," and screaming all kinds of angry, intense stuff. One man, Berg, who saw the chaos unfold right in front of him, told the media, "I couldn't believe it. That's Martin Lawrence. He was yelling and fighting the police. It was crazy." Luckily, the cops kept their cool. They managed to get Martin out of the street without using force. But they could tell right away, something was way off. He wasn't just acting wild, he needed serious help. First stop, Sherman Oaks Hospital. After some quick checks, they moved him to the well-known Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in LA, where top doctors started digging into what was really going on. At first, the buzz was that Martin hadn't been taking his prescribed meds, which police believed might have triggered a seizure. Seizures can mess up your body and your brain, leaving you dazed and out of control. But then came a twist. His doctor, William Young, stepped in and said Martin wasn't sick in the usual sense. According to him, Martin was totally exhausted and severely dehydrated. Yeah, dehydration. The kind that hits when you're running nonstop, skipping breaks and not drinking water.
Thank you for saying that we look good and that I look good, because there's a rumor out there that I had a stroke. Man, that's totally not true, so I just want to clear that up. But I thank everybody for the concern and the love.
That combo can wreck your system fast. The body shuts down and the brain stops working right, and it shows. A hospital rep, Ron Wise, gave a public update saying Martin was in fair condition. So no, he wasn't in danger of dying, but he definitely needed medical help and rest. As for the skipped meds, Ron couldn't confirm if that part was even true.
Let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, "They are trying to kill me"? What's going on?
Right as the cops were getting ready to pull Martin out of traffic, he cracked a strange joke, one that chilled some folks to the bone. He looked around and said, "I've always told everybody they'd be coming for me someday." A few people let out nervous laughs, but most were just stunned. It felt like Martin knew this kind of moment was coming, like he'd been waiting for it. As he was being handled by police, investigators also started looking into that gun he was carrying. Was it even legal? If not, Martin could have been hit with serious charges. Meanwhile, fans were spiraling. People who grew up watching him were now watching him unravel. Everyone hoped he'd slow down, take a break, and get the help he clearly needed. But that wild street incident, it was only the beginning. Just 3 months later, Martin was back in the headlines. this time at Burbank Airport. He was trying to catch a flight to Phoenix, but get this, he had a loaded 9mm Beretta in his bag. Yep, again, the news dropped jaws across the country. Everybody knows you can't bring a gun on a plane, not even for a quick hop to another city. But when questioned, Martin told the police he honestly didn't know that rule. He thought flying with a gun between states was allowed. That excuse had people side-eyeing hard. A big celebrity not knowing basic airport laws, really? Even more shocking, the police didn't press charges. That move left a lot of folks scratching their heads. And the chaos didn't stop there. Martin was soon making noise again, this time at a nightclub. Witnesses say he was dancing when another man bumped into him. Instead of brushing it off, Martin got heated and threw a punch. Just like before, no charges were filed, but now people were really talking. Was this just a string of bad luck or something deeper? The back-to-back drama had fans wondering if Martin was spiraling out. Something clearly wasn't right. Martin's behavior was shifting fast, and not in a good way. It was like trouble followed him everywhere. But it wasn't just the wild stuff happening in public. Things were breaking down behind closed doors too. At home, his marriage to Patricia Southall was crumbling, and badly. According to People magazine, Patricia said Martin had been acting aggressive and straight up scary. She claimed his moods were all over the place, and that she didn't feel safe around him. Things got so intense that by 1996, Martin filed for divorce. But Patricia had already made her own move. She got a restraining order. That's a legal document meant to keep someone away when they're seen as dangerous. And what she said in court, it was chilling. Patricia claimed Martin had threatened her life. In her divorce filings, she said he called her and warned, "You'll pay for what you've done to my family." That already had people on edge. But what she said happened the next day was even more disturbing. According to her, Martin called again and said, "I'm going to have to kill you. I'm going to have to kill your family." Then it got extra creepy. Patricia said a note was slipped under her door. It wasn't signed, but she was convinced it came from Martin. The fear was real. While all this drama was blowing up at home, Martin was also catching heat at work. He was starring in his hit sitcom, Martin, the show that made him a household name.
I said, Mama used to say, take your time, young man.
But even that was getting rocky. His on-screen wife, played by Tisha Campbell, was right by his side on set, but off camera, things between them weren't so smooth either. The tension was just getting started. Behind the scenes, things were way messier than they looked on TV. In January 1997, Tisha Campbell had enough. She walked off the set of Martin and refused to come back, not over drama in the script, but because she said the real-life work environment had become intolerable. She wasn't just mad, she was done. HBO, the company behind the show, tried to strong-arm her back with legal pressure, but Tisha wasn't backing down. She fired back with a lawsuit, accusing Martin of touching her inappropriately and saying things that crossed serious lines. She said his behavior on set made it impossible to keep working. The lawsuit, it was for sexual harassment, and it shook the entire industry. Eventually, it was settled outside of court, which meant no trial, no full public reveal of what really went down. Everything was kept quiet. But make no mistake, this wasn't some minor disagreement. It was a major scandal. Tisha later returned just to film the final few episodes, and by May, the show was over. At the time, Martin told the press that the series ended because he wanted it to. He told Variety it was his decision to walk away.
I'm leaving, man. You know, things ain't gonna be the same without you.
And years later, in 2020, he doubled down in GQ magazine saying, "People said that I got canceled, but that wasn't the case. I decided to just leave the show." But when Tisha was asked about those comments during an interview on The Talk, she didn't co-sign any of that. She said she couldn't say much, legal reasons, but her reaction said it all. "I was actually kind of shocked," she admitted. This whole situation had people drawing comparisons. Martin Lawrence and Sean Diddy Combs, and two huge names in black entertainment, both rich, powerful, and under fire for serious accusations. The spotlight wasn't just on their fame anymore. It was on the chaos trailing behind them. Diddy's name has been popping up lately, and not for the right reasons.
And for a second, you don't know who I am and what I do. Let's just put it to the side.
Just like Martin Lawrence, he's been tied to some dark, dangerous stuff in recent years. Allegations of abuse and violence in his personal life have made headlines, and people close to him have said he's got a reputation for being controlling and unpredictable. What's even more disturbing, in both Diddy and Martin's situations, it looks like the people around them may have chosen to cover up their problems instead of stepping in to help. When you're surrounded by yes men more focused on keeping the cash flowing than checking on your well-being, that's a recipe for disaster. Fame, fortune, and non-stop attention, it might look glamorous, but it can mess with your head. Both these stars were under intense pressure, and the people in their circles didn't always have their best interests at heart. But even with all that chaos, Martin Lawrence made the world laugh. His comedy was special, raw, real, and relatable. He had this way of telling jokes that hit home while still being hilarious, and that impact didn't go unnoticed. One major star who looked up to him, none other than Dave Chappelle. In an interview, Dave talked about how Martin's story gave him real hope. Martin came straight out of Washington, D.C., no rich background, no celebrity family, and made it all the way to the top in Hollywood.
This is the guy that showed everybody you can make it from D.C. to Hollywood.
That showed Dave that it was possible. If Martin could do it, so could he. Martin's grind, his hustle, and that self-belief inspired a whole generation, including Dave.
I had a personal stake in his success. Every time he did something, it made me feel inspired and really good.
The two eventually got to work together in the action comedy Blue Streak. For Dave, that wasn't just another role, it was a moment. He went from watching Martin on screen to sharing scenes with him. It was more than just work, it was personal. While filming Blue Streak, Dave Chappelle and Martin Lawrence clicked instantly. They laughed nonstop, had a blast on set, and even traveled together to promote the movie. Dave said Martin treated him like a real big brother, checking in on him, offering advice, and just showing pure kindness. That meant the world to Dave. To him, Martin wasn't just a comedy legend. He was solid, someone who truly cared about people. But then came a terrifying turn. Not long after those good times, Martin suffered a stroke, and it was almost fatal. A stroke hits the brain and can leave you seriously damaged, or worse. It was one of those life or death moments. Thankfully, Martin survived. When Dave went to visit him, he expected sadness. Instead, Martin cracked a joke and told him it was the best sleep he ever had. Dave couldn't help but laugh. That moment said everything about Martin. Even while recovering from something that could have taken his life, he still found a way to make people smile. That's who Martin was. Tough, funny, and a fighter to the core.
And Martin had a stroke. He almost died. And then after that, I saw him, and I was like, oh my God, Martin, are you okay? And he said, I got the best sleep I ever got in my life. That's how tough he is.
But peace didn't last long. Out of nowhere, Martin was seen again in the middle of a street, this time waving a gun and shouting, "They're trying to kill me!" People were stunned. It felt like history repeating itself, only worse. Dave, who once looked at Martin as this unstoppable force, was shaken. How could someone so strong, so smart, and so gifted unravel like this in front of the whole world? It made Dave take a hard look at Hollywood. The fame, the pressure, the nonstop spotlight. Why did it feel like more and more stars were falling apart?
What's going on? Why is Dave Chappelle going to Africa? Why does Mariah Carey make a $100 million deal and take her clothes off on TRL? A weak person cannot get to sit here and talk to you. Ain't no weak people talking to you.
Was there something toxic behind the glam? The shine of stardom was starting to look like a trap. Dave Chappelle didn't just talk about Martin. He brought up other celebs who cracked under the spotlight too. He remembered when Mariah Carey had her public breakdown and then opened up about his own struggles. Dave said the pressure got so intense, he straight up left the country and flew to Africa. That's how deep it was. He's not a fan of how quick people are to throw around the word crazy. Dave made it clear. He doesn't think stars like Martin are crazy at all. He sees them as people going through something heavy. In his eyes, the real problem isn't the person. It's the world around them, that Hollywood machine. It'll chew you up and spit you out.
Let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, "They are trying to kill me"?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Fame might look like glitz, parties, and big checks, but Dave knows that's only part of the picture. For Martin, fame hit like a lightning bolt, fast, loud, and destructive. Some said he totally lost control, and even people close to him noticed a shift. Steve White, a close friend who lived with Martin and wrote for The Martin Show, compared him to Mike Tyson. Big-hearted but misunderstood. That says a lot. Steve saw Martin as someone who'd go all in for the people he loved, but the public didn't always get to see that side. The love was there. It just got lost in the chaos. Another person who saw the change firsthand was Jamie Masada, owner of the iconic Laugh Factory in LA. He watched Martin rise from the comedy scene to superstardom. And once Martin blew up, Jamie said everything changed. He started rolling with bodyguards, acting different, like the fame had rewired him. In Jamie's words, fame got to Martin's head. And just like that, the same fame that built him up started tearing him down. Some celebs ride the wave of fame like pros, but for others, it hits like a wrecking ball. Martin Lawrence admitted it himself in an interview. Fame was way harder than he ever expected. He thought he was ready, but the truth, he wasn't even close. Martin opened up about how his whole life was crashing down. He was burning out from nonstop work, his marriage was falling apart, and sleep barely happening. He also kept it real about his own flaws, saying his temper and drinking were adding fuel to the fire, but he wasn't hiding from it. He said he was trying to change. He's learning to keep his cool and stop letting situations spiral out of control. And even though things didn't work out with his ex-wife Patricia, they still talk because they co-parent their daughter Jasmine. That says a lot. Martin's doing what he can to be present for his family, even after all the drama. Rumors started flying that he went to rehab, but Martin shut that down. He said he only went for one day, just long enough to realize he had to deal with things his way. No programs, no group therapy, just personal accountability. In his words, the flip side of having nothing to lose is having something to gain. When you hit rock bottom, you've still got a shot to build back stronger. And Martin knew it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about his daughter, his future, his legacy. But just when it looked like he was getting back on track, August 1999 brought another blow. A serious health scare that almost took his life. At the time, Martin's career was booming. He had hit movies, packed fan bases, and a new film on the horizon. To prep for filming, he wanted to drop some weight and decided jogging would help. Sounds harmless, right? But Martin made a dangerous mistake that nearly killed him, and he didn't even know it. On a blazing hot summer day, Martin made a move that nearly cost him his life. Trying to lose weight fast for an upcoming movie, he decided to go jogging, but not just in workout gear. He layered up, stacking clothes under a nylon jogging suit, thinking the extra sweat would speed things up. Big mistake. The heat outside was already intense, and all those layers just turned his body into an oven. As he ran, his body started to overheat, fast. The human body is supposed to stay around 98 degrees, but Martin's temperature shot up to a deadly 107. That's the kind of heat that shuts everything down. His organs couldn't keep up. He collapsed from a heat stroke, and his body literally couldn't function anymore. He passed out cold and didn't wake up. People nearby panicked and called 911. EMTs rushed him to the hospital, where doctors took one look and knew this was serious. They had to put him on a ventilator to help him breathe. His condition? Critical. He was hanging by a thread.
Yeah, it was that bad, huh? Yeah, man, because everything breaks down. Your function, nothing don't work no more. Your balls go to flat. Everything breaks down.
Then came the scariest part. Martin slipped into a coma. Not sleep, not rest. A real coma. For 3 long days, he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't respond to anything. His loved ones were holding on to hope, but even the doctors weren't sure if he was going to make it. And then, out of nowhere, a miracle. Martin woke up. He was weak, barely able to speak, but he was alive. Slowly, his strength came back, and over time, he made a full recovery. It was nothing short of unbelievable. After coming that close to death, something shifted in Martin. That near-death moment forced him to see life differently.
You know, you ring the bell, you call the nurse, you got, on my child. They just look at you like, you nasty.
And from that point on, everything changed. In a 2002 interview, Martin opened up about what that near-death coma taught him, and what he said hit deep. I felt like in the coma, God laid me down and woke me up to be able to see a lot more clearly. That wasn't just a quote, it was a revelation. Martin truly believed he'd been given a second chance. He said the whole experience humbled him. It made him stop feeling invincible and start feeling grateful. The man who once lived fast and loud began to appreciate the small stuff, the kind of things people usually overlook. After staring death in the face, Martin stopped taking life for granted. He got more serious about his health and more mindful about how he moved through the world.
How many days? About 3 days. God, yeah. For real, man. But you know what? I gotta tell you, some of the best sleep I ever had.
Years later, even though the moment had once been terrifying, Martin found a way to turn it into a joke. On Conan O'Brien's talk show, he told the whole story with a grin. So please, he warned while laughing, I recommend do not run in a plastic suit. The crowd cracked up as he explained how he decided to go jogging on the hottest day of summer, only to end up passed out on the pavement. Martin used humor to shine a light on a serious mistake, and fans respected that. It showed growth, self-awareness, and that classic comedic spark that made him famous in the first place. Now fast forward to 2024, Martin Lawrence was back in the headlines again. But this time it wasn't about a health scare or legal drama. A video clip started going viral from the Bad Boys' Ride or Die movie premiere.
You need to check with that before you out here choose.
In the clip, Martin's up on top of a double-decker bus with Will Smith. Will's hyped, rapping to the crowd and giving full energy. But Martin, something felt off. His vibe was low, his expression distant. People started whispering online. What's going on with Martin? Is he okay? The internet had questions, and they were coming in fast. Martin looked unsteady, distracted, like his mind wasn't all there. The internet wasted no time. Fans started panicking, and rumors exploded across social media. People were convinced Martin had suffered another stroke. The clip from the Bad Boys' Ride or Die premiere had everyone talking, and the concern was real. To clear the air, Martin showed up on Ebro in the Morning on Hot 97. Host Ebro Darden didn't beat around the bush. He asked Martin straight up if he was okay. Fans were stressed and they needed answers. Martin shut the rumors down. I didn't have a stroke, he said calmly. He explained that what people saw in that viral video wasn't a health issue. It was just him being caught off guard. I was like, oh, this is rock concert stuff, he said, talking about the massive crowd that showed up. The energy, the noise, the wave of people, it overwhelmed him for a second. That's why he looked spaced out in the moment. Ebro gave him a chance to speak directly to the fans, and Martin kept it cool. He looked into the camera and said, I'm fine, I'm in God's hands, I'm blessed. I'm glad to be waking up every day. He wanted everyone to breathe easy and stop believing the wild stories online. Martin wasn't sick, just surprised by the love and chaos that comes with mega fame. Still, not everyone was convinced. Some fans stayed skeptical. They remembered what happened back in 1999. The heat stroke, the coma, the close call. That moment left a mark on the public, and now any sign of weakness brings instant flashbacks. So while Martin insisted everything was cool, the memory of his past health scare had people watching extra close. Because once someone's had a near-death experience, even a blink can spark fear. At the time that clip went viral, Martin was actually getting ready to step back into his hilarious role for Big Mama's House, a part that required him to wear thick, heavy costumes for long hours. Fans who remembered the past knew that wasn't easy on his body, especially after everything he'd already been through. Doctors had once called it exhaustion, and anyone who's followed Martin's journey knew he'd faced real challenges. Some people said he just looked tired. Others thought they saw something deeper, like sadness. And they might have been right. Around that time, Martin was still grieving the loss of his brother, a pain that doesn't go away quickly. Grief has a way of showing up on your face even when you're trying to smile through it. One fan online said it best, Martin already told us he was going through it. Let's not tear him down, let's lift him up. It was a reminder to treat people with care, not jump to conclusions based on a few seconds of video. And finally, during that same Hot 97 interview, Martin ended the chatter with a smile and a punchline, I'm healthy as hell. Stop the rumors. He wasn't playing. He wanted people to stop spinning stories and just accept the truth. He's good. If you've been riding with Martin this whole time, hit that like button, subscribe, share this video, and drop a comment below. Let us know your favorite Martin moment. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.